When you were a kid, did your mom ever bake cookies or cake or something like that and had the house smelling so good and you couldn't wait to have a bite? And then she uttered those terrible words, "You have to wait until after dinner." And isn't that exactly how you feel when the IRS tells you you have to wait until 59 and a half to take money out of your traditional or Roth IRA accounts? No? Just me? Well, just in case you are wondering how you can tap those Roth IRA or traditional IRA accounts before you turn age 59 and a half, have I got a video for you. Today we're going to talk about Roth conversion ladders, what they are, how to set them up, how to execute them. We'll also talk about some other options you can consider for getting your hands on your retirement accounts early, and why doing none of them may be the best option of all. One of the most common refrains about retirement accounts is that you have to wait until you're age 59 and a half to begin pulling money out of the account penalty free. I totally understand why the IRS has rules. Those accounts are made for retirement. They want you to wait until you're older to tap them. But if you've diligently saved your whole life in IRAs, 401ks, 457s, HSAs, whatever it is, it can be frustrating to have all that money just sitting there but not being able to touch it without paying a 10% penalty on an early withdrawal. Well, today I want to tell you about a strategy called a Roth conversion ladder that will allow you to pull money out of an IRA account before age 59 and a half, penalty free. Now, you may already be aware that if you convert money from a traditional IRA account to a Roth IRA account, you'll pay income taxes on any of those conversions. That's because money in a traditional IRA account is tax deferred, it's never been taxed. When you put it into a Roth, it means you don't pay any tax on the withdrawals, so the IRS takes the tax when you make that conversion. Now, what you may not know is the amount that you convert eventually gets treated kind of like a Roth contribution. That is, contributions to Roth accounts are always available to be withdrawn tax and penalty free. Now, I'm not saying that conversions are contributions, but I'm saying the tax treatment, the penalty treatment, becomes similar after 5 years. Now, you probably also know that there are contribution limits to IRAs. $6,500 in 2023 goes up to $7,500 if you're 50 and older. These limits do not apply to conversions, though. As a result, you can convert large sums of money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA and eventually withdraw that money just like it's a contribution, penalty-free and tax-free. The only catch is you must have the converted amount in the Roth for at least 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half. And this is where the ladder comes in. By thinking 5 years ahead, you can potentially convert a traditional amount into a Roth that you'll want to use for income in 5 years. And you can do this at any age. We've already covered the 5-year rule for Roth IRAs in another video. It's pretty confusing, so I'm not going to get in the weeds here, but we'll provide a link to it on your screen. We'll also put one in the description below. You can check that out if you'd like. I think the easiest way to apply this is going to be through an example. So let's suppose you're 45 years old and you have $350,000 in a traditional IRA. Overall, your saving for retirement has gone very well, but you don't want to wait until age 59 and a half to start. And you've calculated that you'll need about $50,000 a year to act as a bridge between now and the time you reach age 59 and a half and can touch all of your retirement accounts tax and penalty free. Now, if you use that $350,000, this means you could retire at age 53 and begin taking $50,000 a year out of your Roth account and retire early. Now, we got a table on your screen I'll kind of walk through. One thing I want to point out is we're going to assume that $350,000 in the traditional IRA never grows. That's just to keep things simple. Of course, you'll have it invested. Of course, in a normal case, it would grow, and potentially you could even do this earlier than we're doing an example, but we're just trying to keep things really basic for the math. We'll just walk through this line by line. Like we already said, you're age 45. Let's say we're starting this in the year 2024. Starting out, you're not going to convert anything. You've got $350,000, so really, if you're doing $50,000 a year, that's 7 years that you'll be doing conversion. So 7 years ahead of age 59 and a half, you'll be 53 or 52 and a half. We're going to round up in this case. That means the first withdrawal of $50,000 will occur in the year 2032 when you're 53 years old. Now, because of the 5-year rule, you'll need to make that conversion 5 years before the year 2032, or in this case, the year 2027. So you can see, beginning at age 48, you begin making a $50,000 a year conversion from the traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, and you do that for 7 years until the $350,000 is moved in its entirety. 5 years after that initial conversion, you begin making withdrawals. So the $50,000 you converted in 2027 is now available for withdrawal, tax, and penalty free in the year 2032. So you take that $50,000 out. In the next year, the year 2033, you got another $50,000 that you convert in the year 2028. And you continue this process until you reach the age 59 and a half, when you can reach all your retirement accounts tax and penalty free. As you can see, it's a relatively simple strategy to carry out, It just takes advanced planning. So this is something you need to keep in mind if you think that one day you may need a bridge in income to retirement. All right, so a couple things to keep in mind as you do the Roth conversion ladder. The first thing is your tax brackets. Anytime you do a conversion, the tax for that goes on top of regular income. So it could be, or you may find that a conversion puts you into a higher tax bracket if you're not careful. That could be especially painful if you're, say, at the top of the 12% or 24% brackets. Because from 12% it could bump you into 22%, meaning the conversion would be taxed at 22%. Or the 24% bracket can bump you up to the 32% bracket, meaning you pay an additional 8% in income tax on that conversion. So pay attention to that carefully. You'll also want some cash on hand in the years you do the conversion so you can pay the tax bill for the conversion. You don't want to cannibalize your assets from the IRA in order to pay the IRS taxes on the conversion. Basically, that means you'd be saving less in the long run. Additionally, you'd owe an early withdrawal penalty if you did have to liquidate any of that balance to pay taxes. So try to avoid that if possible. Just make sure you have enough cash to pay the conversion tax. All right, at the beginning, we promised there would be some other strategies we'd go over for tapping retirement accounts a little early. So we're going to walk through those now. The first one is the rule of 55. This applies to 401k plans. Basically, what the rule of 55 says that if you retire from your employer at age 55 or later, and the employer you're retiring from has a 401k plan, you can begin making withdrawals penalty-free from that plan beginning at age 55. Now, you can't retire before 55 and begin making the withdrawals at 55 and later. You can retire 55 or later and begin this plan, but it's called the Rule of 55. You should look into it. And remember too, this only applies for plans that exist with the employer you're retiring from. So if you had a 401k from a previous employer, you'll have to wait till 59 and a half to reach it. But if you are retiring from the employer that has the 401k, you can leave at 55 and begin taking money out of that. Another option is Rule 72T, also known as Series of Equal Periodic Payments, where you can begin pulling money out of retirement accounts as long as you take them out as a series of equal periodic payments, or in other words, you take out the same amount each year. When I say same amount, I mean the same calculated amount. There's 3 ways to calculate it. There's an amortization method, a minimum distribution method, and an annuity factor method. Now with 72T withdrawals, you're committing to make these withdrawals for at least 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever occurs later. So in other words, if you start at age 50, you'll have to keep this up until age 59 and a half. If you start at age 57, you'll have to do it through age 62. Now these sound kind of simple, but 72T withdrawals are actually pretty complicated. You definitely should seek the advice or counsel of an accounting professional or tax professional if you decide to do a 72T withdrawal. Because if you go awry with this, it can really cause some painful tax implications for you. But just make sure you know what you're doing before you jump in. The third option is Roth Contributions. If you have just a large Roth account balance and you want to begin making withdrawals, you can take contributions out at any time. I don't love this idea because once you take money out of a Roth, you can never put it back. It's not as if you say, I'm going to take out my contribution from 5 years ago and then I can replace it next year if I have a good tax year or a good investment year or whatever. You can't put it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So basically you're forfeiting all the forward-looking earnings and interest that you would have earned on that contribution. The final option we're going to cover is taxable investments. You can just open a taxable brokerage account. Long-term capital gains in a taxable brokerage account are taxed at a lower rate than income, so there is a tax savings there. You also have the ability to control everything in a taxable space. There's no concern about early withdrawal penalties. You need to be a little bit smart about when you buy, sell, donate investments, things like that, to maximize the tax opportunity. But there's no penalties. If you know you want to retire early or you plan to retire early, a great bridge account is a taxable account instead of fooling with conversion ladders, 72Ts, and all these other, semi-complicated ways to get to your retirement early. If you just save in a taxable space, you do 2 things. One, you give yourself an opportunity to retire early anyway, and you also give yourself a lot of flexibility when you make withdrawals in retirement about where you're pulling income from, and that gives you a lot of control over your tax strategy. So if you're facing the problem of having too much money in your retirement accounts, then way to go. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Try not to be too frustrated about it because the alternative is much worse, right? Hopefully you found this video informative. Hopefully it was helpful. We have plenty more on our website, markmoney.com, about all of these strategies and more. We'll put a link to some of those in the description below. We'll also put a link to the written form of this post in the description below. As always, we're grateful for your interest in our video. Thank you for your time and for watching it. God bless and take care.